Hello. Some dead air there. I guess I didn't put the music track. I miss doing these, but the truth is that I'm never at home where my collection is anymore to actually do that little bit at the beginning anymore. Talk about my collection changing. This is the first video I ever did that I'm actually happy with. This is actually the first 3. I made them very close together. This is not long after I got the computer I have now and the editing software I have now, and I finally figured out how to do the things I wanted to do. Because if you remember my early reviews, and I think some of them are still up on YouTube, my early reviews are very, very different from these, and I don't think they're very good. I've been systematically taking a lot of the weaker ones down over the last year or two. That's why you may have noticed some of my videos disappearing. It's because I've been systematically purging the stuff that I'm not happy with.
But are they really punk? I'll try to answer that question.
I like the editing in this episode, but my performance is awful in all 3 of these. This by far I think has the most ambitious editing of the 3. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm confused.
The audio is awful. The audio is awful. Even if I wasn't mumbling, you know, when the audio is shit, you know, you can't tell what I'm saying here. Well, this is before I figured out how to do titles for the albums too. But yeah, I stuck these together because I was re-watching them, and I'm just like, these videos are so short. How did I do this back then? I sort of get why I did this, because if I remember correctly, this is back in the day when YouTube really, really wasn't tolerant at all of any copyrighted material. That's one of the good things that has happened in the last few years, is that YouTube has become much more sort of tolerant of using lengthier amounts of copyrighted material. Yeah, this is probably my favorite song on this album. I love the viola on there. Yeah, I just don't know how I did the videos this short back then, how I said what I wanted to say, and I guess the reason I'm redoing this is because I've been revisiting some of the Genesis stuff from the 80s. I bought the definitive edition remaster of Abacab, which is basically the original version of the original CD. Well, not really, but more or less. It's the original mix, which I did not have, and I'm beginning the process of rebuying all the Genesis that I have of the 27 versions. But I was rewatching my old reviews, and I was just blown away by how I did these. Like, I'm the kind of person anyhow who's, you know, in 2 years, I'm probably going to be unhappy with the videos I made now, you know, assuming that I improve.
I don't have much to say.
Even like the videos I made this time last year, I have a lot of problems with, and you're going to see that when I do the commentaries for the 96 episodes. Contrary to things I might have said in this episode, I actually really, really like the first Velvet Underground album. It is by far my favorite album by them. Although the 69 self-titled does come sort of close.
This is another place where I get really...
What's up with the audio, little audio spike there?
It just goes on way too long, and
That's actually the guest room in my grandparents' house.
This song is a perfect example.
I think I've filmed maybe 2 videos there, all in all.
Songs from the year 1967.
Neither of them are videos I'm particularly happy with. I think they're both kind of rushed.
6+ minutes of feedback experiments and the same riff being played over and over again.
You think that's bad, Past John? Listen to Sister Ray. Whew.
The Velvet Underground and Nico is simultaneously a very strong album and a very weak album. What's good?
I also realize now how incredibly pretentious this is, you know. Shut up, you barely 18-year-old moron. This is a legendary album you're talking about, and I mean, not that I necessarily put the Velvet Underground on a pedestal, because I really don't, but there was not the awareness of the magnitude of what I was taking on in those days the way there is now. It's the same as with the obscenities in the video. You know, when I started out making these videos, I was not really thinking about, you know, what kind of presence I'm going to put out there. I wasn't thinking about how this is the face that I present to the world, or certainly one of them. And that's why I've toned the obscenities way down over the past year, is because, you know, I don't necessarily want the image that I present to the internet world of being some loudish, obscenity-spewing moron. That, and also sort of the process of me getting my own identity.
They seemed so mediocre and so empty.
Yeah, the audio in this is much better. I'm starting to think that it's just that room has bad that room at my grandparents' has bad acoustics. The other video that I've ever shot there was actually the Jethro Tull video that I did this December, which it has audio issues of its own, but that has to do with me not really getting myself acclimated to the camera to this camera.
So let's see if Abacab is a completely mediocre,
I actually did this
80s atrocity,
like the week before I moved to college.
In there somewhere.
Because I bought Abacab. Well, actually, let me begin my Genesis Odyssey here. My little 2015 was like the summer of Genesis, because I bought like let me think about what I bought. I bought Abacab, I bought Duke, and then there were 3. I bought Wind and Wuthering, I bought The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, pretty much all the stuff I was missing except for 1 or 2 albums. And so, like, when I think about the summer of 2015, I always think about Genesis. And, yeah, I don't hate this song at all. I actually really like it, but I just felt the need to be negative for some reason. You know, it's Phil Collins' Genesis. I gotta bash it a little bit, even though I'm much more defensive on this album than I am in particular of The Yellow Shapes.
I like this.
I think halfway through this video, I figured out that wearing my glasses was just too much trouble, and that's why especially now, especially since I've come back, you hardly ever see me wearing my glasses in a video because it's just too much trouble. You know, the glare comes off the lighting,
and then has to lie to everybody when he comes back to Earth.
You know, it's
so that people don't think that
just too much trouble. You know, lets you see my eyes directly. I can see fine without them, at least at close ranges, and you know, the camera's generally only like 2 or 3 feet away from my face, so it's not an issue. This is the best song on the album.
Dodo/Lurker is one of
there's another thing, you know, you see me reaching into to turn the webcam off, you know. For all the fancy editing on in these videos, the basic editing is pretty awful. And that's something you'll find fairly consistently right up to the point where I went away for 2 months last spring. And it's only after I come back that the production values get significantly better.
I think this song is okay.
And yes, I agree with what I said almost 2 years ago. Whodunit is awful.
Track 7.
Awful.
Man on the Corner.
Were I to do this video now, I would dedicate way more time to talking about how awful it was. I might even have done the joke that I did for the Calling All Stations review, where you have me curl up in a fetal position, you know, crying because the song is so bad.
But that I quite enjoy.
I still love this song, you know. There's a reason I used it as the intro song.
Track 9. Another record. The album ends
I still don't like Another Record that much, but I think I may have overstated how bad it was.
faux harmonica synthy thing they start throwing in at the end of the song.
I don't know. Abacab is definitely the most experimental Phil Collins Genesis album, and possibly the most experimental Genesis album as a whole.
Pretty enjoyable look at a band
And
transition.
the flip side of that is that there are some serious duds on the album. Apparently, they threw out an entire double album. They made a double album, basically. You know, Abacab could have been a double album, and you know, if I think they should have made a double album because it would be the perfect album to have a double album. You know, it's their artsiest album of this era. You know, there were supposed to be 2 more parts to Dodo, and there were like 4 or 5 songs they just left off altogether. So that's what I think about that. This episode is interesting. That is my mom's vinyl copy of that, which I've sort of appropriated. Yeah, it's my old logo, which I eventually replaced with another shittily hand-drawn. I'm trying to get like a graphic artist of some kind so who I can talk to about sort of redoing my logo, because I'm not really. I'd like a new little profile picture logo thing, but I'm not literate enough in that kind of tech to really do it myself. I've pretty much made my peace with this album over the years. You know, for my history, I heard this was like the second or third Genesis album I ever heard. I heard it in Florida. This was in like, I mean, you talk about like the mythic summers of your youth, of like the perfect summer. I heard it in 2012. We went back to Florida. It was the last time I was ever down there before they sold the house.
Track 2. That's all.
And I heard it when I was down, you know, it was this perfect summer, and I heard this album, and for whatever reason, the digital copy that I had did not have Mama on it. And those of you who know this album know that Mama is either the best or second best song of the whole album. So, understandably, I hated the album. I didn't get Home by the Sea or Second Home by the Sea at the time, but I did like Silver Rainbow and It's Gonna Get Better. So that's my experience with this album, and that colored my perception of not only this album, but Phil Collins' Genesis as a whole for a long, long time. Until I got Duke. And even then, I didn't really reevaluate this album until I got Abacab. You know, I would only listen to Second Home by the Sea because I've always sort of liked Second Home by the Sea and that weird, like, mechanized, automated sound it has.
Musically, it's pretty mediocre, but it's one of those 80s things
to this day, I don't like the second side of this album. This is not my least favorite Phil Collins Genesis album. You know, just for the record, We Can't Dance is still way worse, but this is probably my second least favorite. I don't remember if I said favorite. No, We Can't Dance is easily my least favorite.
I don't like this song either. See,
the second side is just so uneven, and like, you notice it even more on the vinyl, believe me. It's just so uneven, you know? Illegal Alien is musically fun, but dear lord, that song has dated poorly.
This has got some nice
now it's just kind of racist. But the last 2 songs on here are a lot of fun, and I don't mind.
Track 9.
I think it's Taking It All Too Hard, or is that the song on Invisible Touch? Yeah, I think it's Taking It All Too Hard. I actually don't mind Taking It All Too Hard. I've grown way more tolerant of the Phil Collins ballad style, which I was way more tolerant of than most people to begin with, since I originally made this album. And for the record, these three videos collectively do sort of suffer a bit from the fact that I was aping the whole angry reviewer trend, which I always like to joke that I came to that too late, because I really did, and we'll get into that more on the 96 episodes when I do those commentaries. But
wasn't just a job.
Some of this is me trying to do the Angry Reviewer thing a good 3 to 4 years after the Angry Reviewer thing went out of style.
And honestly, it's probably the worst.
But in any case, you know, I like final verdict on these. I still like the Velvet Underground and Nico. I still like Abacab. I like Yellow Shapes probably a little more than I did back then, but I still don't like it hugely. In any case, you know, this has been John doing a commentary. The video's ending, so I will be signing off.
To that eventually. So, good night.